Hi everybody, and welcome back to Rebellious Menstruation. This is probably my 4th to 5th attempt at making this video because I keep getting exceptionally frustrated with the topic. Essentially it is kind of a Q&A about how many pads you should purchase or own or get. I have addressed this in 2 other videos. However, just this last week, I again saw it suggested that you purchase 15 to 20 pads. And this question really, or this answer really infuriates me. The question in and of itself does actually make sense, because when you're first getting into cloth pads, this is the first type of question you ask: how many of these do I need? And 15 to 20 is definitely not the answer, and it almost at this point feels as if somebody 4 years ago said this as a number, and that almost every YouTuber video since has just repeated this answer. It's just quite simply not the truth, because your period is unique to you, and how you manage and deal with your period is also unique to you. The amount that you bleed is also, something that you need to manage and deal with. So it's why 15 to 20 is just quite simply the most atrocious answer that I have heard. And in actual fact, suggesting possibly any number would be a terrible idea, because it doesn't make any sense. The number that you need is predicated on your personal preference. It is predicated on the preference for the type of products that you will use, and then underneath that, how many of those that you will use. And I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I hear all the time how heavy women are. It keeps on being said over and over and over again. About 12% of the population have exceptionally heavy periods. By the same token, about 12 to 15% of the population has exceptionally light periods, which means there are approximately 70% of the population that falls within a normal range of menstrual blood loss, which is between 40 to 80 mil. So, again, that 12 to 15% of the population would bleed over 80 mil, but even then, they would very rarely, if ever, bleed over 100 mil. About 10 to 15% of that population will bleed under 40 mil, but generally not under 30. I have used a menstrual cup for 3 months out of 6, and I got 72 mil, 78 mil, and 68 mil. So I fall within the perfectly average range. So your preference is that you may prefer internal protection, in which case you will purchase a cup, or maybe 2 cups depending. Your preference may be external protection like these. Your preference may be a combination of both. I have a personal preference for a combination of both. I have about 80 to 90 pads, which is absolutely enough. More likely leans towards far too much. And that's fine, because that's a personal choice that I have made to get and collect these. However, when I use disposable single-use products like tampons or pads, I would use between 40 and 60 per cycle. So this is the number that I used to purchase reusable products. I based my decision not on 15 to 20, which would have been a ridiculous number for me personally, but on how many disposable single-use products that I currently used in my cycle when I started transitioning. I have a friend of mine, it's actually the only person I know with a light period, but she has a light period and therefore uses only period underwear. She has about 6 or 7 pairs of period underwear and hasn't looked back since, which means that she doesn't own any of these cloth pads and she doesn't actually use internal protection because she stated that she doesn't bleed enough to worry about it. So therefore, her personal preference is owning Modibody underwear. She has enough to cover the 4 days of her period, both morning, evening and overnight, which I think she said she had about 7, and that's how she processes her stuff. So for her, her number of product is 7. For me, I have 4 menstrual cups and about 90 pads, but I can use, my last cycle I used 2 menstrual cups and about 27 pads, and I used less pads than normal because I used my menstrual cup for 3 days. So consequently, I have used only pads in a cycle, and I have used upwards of 47. So having 20 pads for me would not work for my cycle and would not work for me personally. And this is why suggesting a number like 15 to 20 is highly inaccurate. You need to sort things out before you start purchasing. Sometimes, even though you do start purchasing, you could hit maybe a make or a style that suits you far better. I do have a video on shaped pads, which you can go check out, but cloth pads tend to come in both smaller sizes and far larger sizes than what you would find in traditional single-use products. So when you're trying to sort through all the stuff that you need before you start purchasing these, you will need to look out for such things as I've stated, whether you prefer internal or external protection. And if you prefer internal protection and want to get a menstrual cup, you will then need to sort out whether you have a high cervix, a medium cervix, or a low cervix. You will also need to know if you exercise a lot or a gymnast or a dancer, that type of thing, what type of firmness of the cup that you need to get that is going to suit your body type, shape, and exercise regime. Once you've sorted that out, you'll be directed to the most appropriate menstrual cup for you. If you are then looking at external protection, you'll be looking at 2 things, which are cloth pads like these or menstrual underwear made by such companies as Thinx, Modibody or Love Luna. So these 3, those are just 3 examples of companies that make period underwear. There are others. So, and then, or a combination of both. So then you're looking at how many you will need. How many days does your period go? How many times do you change now? As I stated, I would change between 40 and 60 times per period with disposable products. So that's what I based my selection on. I prefer external protection like these, and I currently do not own any period underwear, but I use internal protection when I'm at work. So I have several menstrual cups, I have currently 4, that I use when I'm outside of the house or at work. If I'm at my own house or at a friend's house, I will use these. I based my selection of pads based on the fact that I'm a centre bleeder. So I will bleed in this part of the pad mostly, and occasionally off the wings. So this is what I focused on when I started purchasing pads. As I went along, I discovered that I have a preference for 10-inch pads for daytime wear, 7-inch pads for liners, and approximately 12 to 14 inches for overnights. So that's what I focused on purchasing. For you, it could be completely different things. I have seen pads as small as 5 inches and as long as 18 inches. These are made because each of us is different. Please stop suggesting 15 to 20 pads and start suggesting that you need to be aware of your body, your period, and your bleeding cycle to actually then direct your attention and time into collecting the right type of stuff for you and the right type of reusable products that are going to work for you. So this is why this has taken me probably 4 videos to get out, because it does make me very frustrated and angry that these types of suggestions keep coming up and turning up at 15 to 20. It's just so inaccurate, because you could have a spectrum of stuff that is going to influence how many period products that you require, need and use. You do not need as many cloth pads as I have. You do not need as many cups as I have. But what you do need is to understand how many products you personally need. So the usual things will apply. My contact details are down below. You can email me, tweet me, Insta me, or leave a comment down below. Love to hear your feedback. Outside of that, thanks for tuning in and listening, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.